segment is on wellness plans, integrated wellness plans, and how you can implement wellness into your practice. Obviously, it's a big deal right now in veterinary medicine, and we have a wellness solutions partner, PayPros, and I'll introduce Lindsay Heil.
Thanks, Drake. Let me just say that my name is Lindsay Heil. I'm with PayPros Veterinary, and I'm a product marketing manager there. And this fine gentleman that's working the presentation is actually our Director of Product Strategy. So it's his brainchild that is this wellness solution. So since we've all had that coffee, little audience participation, who is currently familiar with offering a preventative care package to your clients? Yes, little familiar? You don't do it yet though? Okay. Anybody already doing it? You are? Wonderful.
We do one for equine.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, so I think after you hear me yammer on a little bit this morning, everyone will be very familiar with it. And as Drake said, it's one of the biggest buzzwords in the industry today. So I know there's a lot of emphasis on it. It's almost impossible to go to a conference nowadays and not hear many, many seminars on it. So we'll give a little background on the importance of wellness, and then we'll talk about the integrated solution with ClienTrax. Okay. So there's a lot of reasons why practices are interested in offering preventative care packages. And the two largest reasons are because it really drives patient compliance. And the second reason is through that increased compliance, you're also hugely growing the practice's revenue. And the reason why compliance goes through the roof is what we've found is most practices find that the pet owners really do want to do the right thing for their pets, but they can't always afford to adhere to all of the doctor's recommendations. So by offering things as a bundle and allowing them to pay over time, they're very willing to go with your recommendations. And through that increased compliance, you're selling additional services that they might otherwise not be able to purchase. And we'll get into a little bit more detail about that because there's also a lot of benefits of buying off-plan services every other time they're in the office. But we will certainly dig into that a bit further. I think one of the most important things to discuss is the fact that veterinarians at their core really care about their patients. They aren't necessarily the business managers. So some of you in the room might not be the actual practicing veterinarian, maybe you're the practice manager. They need someone like you in there to help them run their business efficiently. Their first mission is to help the pets, not necessarily to drive revenue. So I think that through these programs, they kind of achieve both fronts. Go ahead to the next one. So I'm not sure if anybody is very familiar with the Bayer study that was done back in 2010, but they show that there's currently about 9% or so of all U.S. practices already have a wellness plan in place. And that's for small animals as well as equines, so you're already on the cutting edge. That's great. The exciting thing is, as Drake mentioned, this is such a buzzword. By the end of the year, Bayer's anticipating that it will be over 50% of all practices have some type of wellness offering in place. So that might not be for all animals, but they would at least offer some component of wellness. We found the most common to be puppy or kitten plans because there tends to be a lot of care necessary right from the start. So this number is hugely, growing very, very quickly. And the additional benefits to offering wellness is it increases the office visits. As I mentioned, whenever they come in for a wellness visit, they always buy off-plan services because there's not a huge dollar value associated with what they walked in the door for. So if there's other recommendations, they tend to, be very agreeable to going with the doctor's recommendations. And the big benefit to offering wellness plans is it absolutely removes the sticker shock. So you know what you're paying up front, you're able to budget for it, you're able to afford it, and that's really what drives the success of these types of programs. So let's talk a little bit about why that number is currently only 9%, because this has been out since 2010. People have been aware of it for a while. We even heard that wellness was a huge driver back in the 80s and that kind of lost a lot of its favor because of the difficulty to manage these types of programs. So it was here, it was big, it went away for a long time, and now it's back. And the reason that the number seems to be currently only at about 9% of practices adopting it is because it is very difficult to manage without software integration. So the one thing I really want to drive home is through our integration with ClienTrax, they are the only practice management software that has a fully integrated, comprehensive wellness program that they're able to offer to the veterinary hospitals. Absolutely the only one. So, so that's really something to be excited about, because this is very cutting edge. So they, through this integration, obviously through the software integration, we are able to manage all components of the plan. So we're able to automate the plan design, able to automate the marketing of it, obviously able to automate the payment collection, because that's really where practices get bogged down, is the management of these plans. And obviously, last component is tracking the redemption of the services. So those are the 4 huge components, and ClienTrax is the only one to be able to deliver that comprehensive solution. So very exciting. So hopefully, if you have any questions about those specifics, we can dig in a bit deeper and get all those answered for you. There are several other wellness solutions out there, and I won't call anybody out by name, but there are disadvantages to using other providers, and that is because there are oftentimes many fees associated with it, whether it's a flat percentage or a cost per pet. But there are people out there profiting off of wellness, and we are proud to say that we are not those people. So that is a little bit of what makes us very different. And the last component is that we give you your money right away. So as we are automatically collecting the patient's payments, you get them up front. We're not holding it in escrow for any period of time. Everything sound good so far? Yes? No, other programs will hold your payment for a period of time. We give it to you immediately. Within 24 to 48 hours, we process it and it's in your bank account. Yep, so those are just some things that make the integrated solution with ClienTrax different than some standalone solutions that currently exist out there. Yes? Okay, sure. So as I had mentioned a few slides back, we have done a little bit of digging on this, obviously, through the creation of this program. And what we've determined is that clients spend an average of $65 additional off plan every single time they walk in the door for wellness. So as Christoph was presenting the last time, they had an option to schedule their annual wellness visits, and that kind of caught my attention, because that's not the idea. We don't want them in only once a year for wellness. We don't want that to be an annual visit. We want them to come in several times throughout the year to do these requested services, because every time they walk through your door, they're only spending more and more money. So one thing that is very interesting is one of the pushbacks we hear about wellness is people don't want to bundle services. They don't want to necessarily discount services because of the potential hit that could take to the practice's revenue. But the opposite is actually true, because we have found that there is roughly 30% breakage on average. And breakage is a payment industry term that basically has to do with stored value. You're paying for something up front, and that value is never entirely redeemed. So think to a gift card that you might get at Christmas time, and it's got $100 on it, and you go to the store and you spend 98 of those dollars. Do you keep the gift card in your pocket? Maybe you toss the last $2, it never gets redeemed. That's pure profit to the merchant. And the same thing absolutely holds true at veterinary practices, because they're paying you monthly for a set number of services, but not all of those services are always redeemed. We found that only about 70% of those services are redeemed. So that's 30% that people are paying you that you're never losing the income for. So are there any questions around that? Because, those are some pretty big stats that actually that's part of this driver of revenue.
Clients know that, and yet they would be willing to sign up again.
Yeah, well, so what we found is if they redeem about 70% of the services, they absolutely do, because there's value to being able to afford and budget for these things. And just because you put them in the plan doesn't necessarily mean that they're relevant to all pets. So off the top of my, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, that's absolutely why merchants offer gift cards, because they know that there's a percentage of people that never redeem, or they redeem less than the value on the card. So, it's not what you think about in medicine, but it's a real life fact that, you have real data that says that happens.
But to your point, I'm sorry, what was your name? Patty. Thanks for the question. So yeah, that's a really good point. If they're not redeeming all of the plan services, do they see the true value in enrolling for the following year? And the answer is if they redeem 70% or more, then they absolutely do. And so that's why we found the average breakage to be about 30% with increased enrollment the following year. So great question.
Do they always have a credit on their account?
No, so that's the interesting thing, and we'll get into this as we go through the integration with ClienTrax, but the way that we set up the re-enrollment is you get a notification 2 months before the plan's set to expire, and it's not necessarily expiring, right, but the enrollment period would be up. And that's your opportunity to reach out to the client, notify them of anything that they haven't yet come in to redeem, try and upsell them for the following year. So if they're currently in the puppy plan, do they want to re-enroll next year for the canine plan? Do they want to go from the bronze package to the gold package? It's your opportunity to be notified that there's some communication on your end.
All that notification can be done automatically with the presentation that you just saw. Which saves you a lot of time in implementing the program. And to Lindsay's point, in the 80s when these things came out, the reason they didn't succeed and went away was because you didn't have the automated way of tracking the integration back to your practice management, like the money, send all reminders, to do all the kind of legwork and logistics that requires the successfully run one of these programs. So the program is awesome, but the integration to your practice management solution makes it even more awesome because it saves so much time and logistics to manage the program.
Thank you. Yes?
You indicated that the customer's happy with the 70% value of that card. Is there any data, and they sign up again next year?
Yes.
Is there any data on the retention rate?
Any data around retention? Well, to be honest with you, the service hasn't been offered long enough to know what that is. This is all based on Bayer's study back in 2010. So this isn't actually PayPros analysis of this because we actually just launched our wellness program with ClienTrax in January at the North American Veterinary Conference.
The data shows, though, kind of to a little bit of your question, the data shows that when 70% go unredeemed, you're likely to lose the next enrollment. So there's really that kind of space between 30 and 70 that the data still shows you're okay with re-enrollment, but it certainly drops off the curve when you pass 70% with unredeemed.
Good question. So as kind of a follow-up to that, it's a tangential point. Mary, is it? Yes. So we were just speaking a few minutes ago, and she had mentioned to me that between her 4 practices, she has 21,000 clients. Now that doesn't necessarily mean they only have 1 pet each, so I have no idea how large your patient base is. But let's say that you got only 10% of those that signed up, which is a very small percentage. The average is actually 46% of pet parents, 46%. Would offer, would enroll in a wellness program such as this if monthly payments are offered. So let's take 10%, not the average of 46%. If you had just that little amount of your clients enrolled, 44% of all practices see a huge growth in their gross revenue. So when you look at what that number has the potential to be, I'm sure the wheels are starting to turn about what a revenue generator this truly is. Yes? So now let's talk a little bit about what makes the ClienTrax integration to our product very, very special. As I mentioned before, they're the only one to have a comprehensive integrated solution. So one of the main differentiators is the ability to set up recurring payments. So I'll give you the opportunity to read through this as I give a little bit of background. But we have unique technology in that we can store your client's data, which takes you out of the PCI compliance equation. It minimizes your risk because you're no longer the one that's storing the card data. And because we're able to store that, we can bill against that monthly on your behalf. So this really reduces the administration, the expense associated with that, and the front office staff's time in trying to track down collections and manage these types of programs. As I mentioned, that's one of the biggest reasons why this number is still only around 9%, because people haven't found a way to manage these various components of it. And if you can imagine even having only 10% of 21,000 clients on it, that's just mind-boggling, the amount of time that would be associated with managing that. So through this recurring payment technology, we're able to automate that on your practice's behalf. So as a component of the recurring payments, we have managed payer data. And the unique thing about this technology is we use what we call tokenization, which means the data is encrypted, it's never in the clear, so it's completely secure, and we're one of the few people able to offer this type of technology. But the unique thing is we store that token, we'll call it, within our system. And through managed payer data, we are able to actually update this on your behalf. So off the top of my head, I can't recall, is it about 25% or so? That's the decline rate? 28%. So if you have all of these patients enrolled and you have them set up for recurring payments, without us handling that on your behalf, you're going to experience a decline rate annually of 28%. So if you can imagine, that's a whole lot of phone calls to your patients saying, I tried your credit card, please call me back, we need to update this payment. Or you never hear from them, and then what the heck do? Do you send them to collections? Did they take advantage of your services? Just kind of becomes a nightmare. So because we're able to manage this data on your behalf, that nightmare, that headache completely goes away. So let's talk you through a little bit of how that works.
So in managed payer data, one thing I wanted to make sure everybody probably hears this explained two different ways. Because the relevancy of what managed payer data does for a practice has never been seen before in the veterinary medicine business, which is you're actually now associating a credit or debit card that you register on file with a client record. That credit and debit card number is stored within our network database. The ClienTrax software can refer to it at any time for follow-up billing, follow-up transactions without ever having the card number again. So that's pretty powerful technology that you're eliminating a lot of things that typically the practice would do manually in trying to not only be efficient about account receivables, take payments over the phone, send out billings, and you can see how trying to implement a wellness program that has monthly payments, how are you going to manage the monumental task of, in your case, if you had 10% compliance, you're talking about 2,100 credit card numbers that you're trying to bill monthly. There's just simply no way to manage that without software integration that's working with a payment network to register those cards, associate them specifically with the client profile. The ClienTrax software is also that you have inside of your practice is not holding that credit card information. They're only holding a reference number that was given after the initial registration from our network. They refer for any transactions after that using that reference number. Basically, when it arrives at our payment network, we rebuild the transaction data now with that card number by looking it up in our encrypted vault. So it's stored in our database and managed, and you can see, I think, when you kind of understand how that works, the significance of what that now enables us to do, not just in wellness plans, but in everything else, having an actual payment method registered against a client account.
Dana, can you expand on the amount of approval, I guess, if you will, that ClienTrax had to go through to get that legally done? I guess or make that possible.
Well, there's a significant amount of integration that has to take place on the software part because they are actually storing and mapping all of the records that are passed back from us, which are just reference numbers, kind of like the old card catalog. The catalog actually will, locate the book for you, but the book is not actually there. It's just a reference card to a book that's on a shelf somewhere. Well, that book, being a credit or debit card number in our case, is stored remotely from the practice in we're a top 1% credit card processor. It's stored within our payment network. We currently, as you see on this slide, have over 11 million cards. This is probably a few months old as well, this number, stored inside of our data vault. So you can see that this is not a trivial investment. ClienTrax partnered with us because of the enormity of this investment and how it's truly something that partner technology can deliver. And by moving credit cards off of the location, you go 99% down the path of PCI compliance, which is what's your behavior when handling credit card and debit card consumer data.
Questions around that? Go ahead.
I like to think in analogies. This sounds similar to what PayPal does. Is there some kind of synergy with what they do and what you're proposing here?
I'm not sure about synergy. PayPal has a very different business model. PayPal, from a storing financial records on your behalf, yes, but that's kind of where the similarities end. PayPal makes a living by controlling the distribution of that money for a long period of time. So they would prefer you to open a PayPal account, actually tie that into your bank account. They want to incent you to put money into your PayPal account and let it just sit there, because then they start to not only generate revenues in other ways that's traditional, but now they're operating much like a treasury bank in that they're able to make money off of all the money you put within their accounts, which is, we are not at all that way. We constantly distribute funds as fast as technology will allow right back to the accounts of our customers and the ClienTrax customers. So PayPal is, one of their core focuses is to, as I call it, slow trickle the money out. And they do that because on a large scale it's very profitable to hold on to other people's money and say it's a service that you're providing. I mean, you think about their role with eBay, for example, and how they say they're holding this money in escrow, they're doing this for your protection, etc. Even after something has been purchased and received, you say you've received it in good condition, you're willing to release those funds. PayPal holds on to the money another 3-4 days before they actually release the funds. Well, they're doing this because there's really no consumer backlash that says it should be one day or same day. So they're trying to hold on to it as long as possible, as long as the public will allow them to, and they're making money off of that. So that's where the kind of the similarities in, is that only we have the financial information held on in a remote area, but as far as the rest of it, very different. So we just immediately process and distribute funds out. We are not a banking entity at all. We distribute everything immediately.
So because of that tokenization way that we've integrated this, you can also take payments with debit cards over several months, if you will. People aren't on a wellness program as well. So in other words, you can set up ClienTrax to, let's say that somebody comes in and they have a $1,500 procedure done, and you have that discussion that you have a lot of times. I really don't have the money right now. Now you have to figure out, they're not on wellness, they don't qualify for care credit, but they have a debit card, and you've been a long-term customer, and you know they're credit worthy and all that sort of stuff. You can set up, within ClienTrax, you can set up an automatic payment of a debit card or a credit card, pre-negotiated with the client that says, look, every month on the 15th, we're going to take $350 and wrap your card, and it does it automatically, because we have all that automation and integration done. So it's beyond, I know we're here to talk about wellness today, but the ability to have this integrated merchant account with PayPros allows us to do that as well.
What about someone that says, just pay my bill with my credit card each month? Can you do that?
Yeah, we can do that automatically.
You can do,
Yep.
Set it up automatically within ClienTrax. That would automatically rack their card at a certain date of every month.
He's stealing my thunder.
I'm sorry.
So we were going to talk about the wellness, and then that's a really great point, is how you can leverage this existing technology for other uses at the practice. So thank you, that was very well
If
put.
you want to see that in real life, just stop by the booth, today or tomorrow, and we'll show you how you select that client card.
Just one more question. I'll ask you. What percentage of clients have debit credit cards? And do you know, does that vary if they're urban or rural, or what part of the state or country they might be?
Yeah, what I can tell you is through our research, 75 cents from every dollar that the practice takes in is from a credit or a debit card transaction. 75 cents of every dollar. Now, how many people have a credit or debit card? I would imagine the percentage to be higher than that, but as far as the money you take in, 75% comes from credit or debit.
Yeah, the answer to your question, I don't know the exact statistic, but there are several companies, NetSpend, for example, Green Dot is another very large companies, and they went to, basically you've seen the prepaid Visa cards you typically would buy for a gift for someone, so you don't want to dictate to them where they shop, so you just buy them a Visa or American Express card, and then they can go to whatever retailer accepts those cards and redeem that. But there's a couple of those companies, Green Dot and NetSpend, that are gigantic companies. You see them in Walgreens, Walmart, everywhere, that have the racks of the cards. And not only is it the prepaid card value, but in the underbanked, to your question, part of the market, companies have, for people that don't have bank accounts, that's actually a unbelievably large trend that a lot of people don't see, but the underbanked folks are actually having their direct deposits at payroll put immediately onto a prepaid debit card vehicle. So the answer right now, because of that popularity in the underbanked, is got to be near 100% have a Visa or MasterCard or American Express tool inside their wallet that is being funded, whether it's from a bank that's offered them, extended them credit, or whether it's through payroll deposit directly. But we see that huge in another vertical market that we participate in, which is the secondary automobile and the auto industry. So the car lots that sell used cars and things like that, it's prolific in that area. So,
Lindsay, so just to be clear, you said 75 cents of every dollar that's spent in veterinary clinics in the U.S.?
Yes.
So 75 cents of every dollar, Patty, on average across the U.S., 75 cents of every dollar spent at a vet clinic is used in
Made from plastic.
75 cents out of every dollar.
Mm-hmm.
A
very
high
high.
percentage of services in veterinary hospitals across the country are being done with debit credit cards.
Yes.
I just don't see that because we do a lot of farm animal growing and
Okay.
they don't pay, so that's why I did it.
Yeah.
Either that or you don't offer to pay that way.
Yeah,
because
we
you
do.
you haven't had an automated way for them to pay their.
Yeah, that's why.
Now you do.
I think that up in Mary's practice, I think that's probably why they've gone to that, is because they have this they get a chance to see the implications for the annual vaccines and everything else.
Yeah, no, you see the commercials, Alec Baldwin on luggage and things at night. The issuing banks are working very hard with these loyalty programs to make sure that 75 cents becomes 95 cents. That you get something for all the money you spend, you get something back for that. So you have a constant push from the associations to try and drive additional consumer behavior and spend using a credit card. Personally, I try never to spend $1 if it's not on my American Express. For two reasons. One, because of the loyalty, and two, I have one thing to look at the end of the month. So it's simplicity as well as loyalty points that I get back through that. So I pay my gas bill, my cell phone bills. Absolutely everywhere I can use it, I use credit card for that reason.
So we're good on that topic. We'll move on to the next component of technology. So because we at PayPros are able to manage your payer data, that allows us to use this next technology, which is Account Updater. And it's very exciting for us because we're actually the beta for Visa and MasterCard. Completely nationwide, we're the only company that is able to offer this in the aggregate form. And so first, let me tell you a little bit about Account Updater, and then I'll tell you why it's so important. So because we're storing your payer data, we have an agreement with Visa and MasterCard now that says we are able to take that data we have on file, push it out to them in an aggregate form, so all of the merchants that process with us, all of your customers we keep data for, every single day we send that out to Visa and MasterCard. And every single day they push it back to us with credit card and debit card information updated for that data we have on file. So what that means is if you have a patient or a client in your office and they lose their credit card, their wallet gets stolen, the card simply expires as they do every several years. That payment normally would fall into that 28% that is declined. But through our Account Updater technology, we get that information back from the card brands every single day with the updated data. We then update that token that we store on file and bill against that. So all you know is the payment that you submitted that's recurring on the 17th, for example, of every month. Maybe that card data wasn't good, but through our technology, it's been replaced with the new card data. So all you know is that payment comes through automatically. You never know that there was a potential for interruption. So that's actually huge. As I said, we're the beta for that. We're the only payments company that is able to do that in the aggregate form. And you might be familiar with this type of technology if you ever shop on a place like Amazon or iTunes. Everyone have an Amazon account pretty much, yes? Or PayPal, sir? So what you realize there is they always have your updated card on file. I know I've had an Amazon account for maybe 10 years or so, and I don't think that I've ever once had to go give them a new credit card. They always know how to bill me. Great for them, great for me, huge convenience. So we are able to bring service that was once only available to very large corporations because of the huge expense in management of this type of technology. We're now able to offer it to all merchants through our aggregate form. So that's very exciting, and that's how we're able to really drive your practice's revenue and make sure there's no interruption in services.
That feature that you just described, and you couple it with the integrated way you can track the company's or the client's credit card automatically within ClienTrax without ever having to worry about it once you set it up that way. That's a very powerful feature for you as a small business owner to take payments from those particular clients that they can't pay for the services right on the spot, or do things like wellness programs or hurt checks or recurring services of any kind.
So unless you have anything to add.
I should mention, this is my fault. Discover is also now owned by MasterCard, so Discover also participates. American Express is a weird one in that they also participate, but because American Express is their own issuing bank, they do it automatically. They actually don't need this technology for American Express card on file stuff to work. So all card types just is the takeaway I want you to.
I mean, we all have declined credit cards in the offices that will work for people, but
Right.
is it, like, say some people get like child care on credit cards,
Mhm.
are you not allowed to use that for signing up on this sort of thing?
Are you not, you said?
Yeah. Would we be allowed to give you a credit card that is like child support's put on it, or social security's put on it?
Sure, as long as, which all of the, I don't know the specific vehicle, but I would guess.
Or no, credit cards and other that
Big
people
card,
give us
yep.
to run and.
Yeah, because now, because of, how the extreme penetration Visa has, I mean, Visa has 74% market share. MasterCard has about 18% market share. So, I mean, when you look at the amount of cards that are being issued and what that market share is, even in those types of payroll cards, prepaid value cards, the best way to get those things to work is to just, and that's how they build them, is to run on the same rails of all the infrastructure that's already been built that can also all process and then be readily available. So as long as those cards, you see a Visa, MasterCard logo, then that means they're being sequenced in a way that all the infrastructure built throughout the financial industry can support. If you pull out any Visa card, it starts with a number 4. That's for a reason, because all the payment networks are built around that convention of how those cards get issued. So anything that you would see those logos on would mean that it's a vehicle, a payment vehicle, purposely built to be widely used anywhere Visa, MasterCard are accepted, which is just about anywhere.
So short answer, absolutely. Yes? Okay, so let's walk you through how this technology works, because it's really exciting that we're able to offer it. So the important thing is the customer comes in and they say, yes, I want to sign up for a wellness plan, or in Jeff's example, I want to set up some type of recurring payment agreement with your hospital. So we go ahead, we enroll them through the ClienTrax software, and then let's say somewhere along the line, the bank issues or activates a new card for that customer for the aforementioned reasons, whether it's lost, stolen, or it's expired and a new one is issued. So normally at this point, the card data you have on file would be bad, the transaction would be declined, you'd have to pick up the phone and try and get new data for that person and bill them accordingly. Through our account updater technology, what we then do is, because we have the data stored, as I mentioned, every single day, we push that out to the card brands, Visa and MasterCard. Discover's part of MasterCard, and then Amex, it's kind of its own issue, but they accept all cards, whether they're expired or not, they approve it. So all card brands get pushed out, the new data is populated within our system, and that allows the transaction to then be approved once the merchant initiates the payment with that stored card. So then we have that up-to-date data, we restore that approved data within the system, so not only is that transaction then approved that otherwise would have been declined, but all future payments associated with that new card data will now also be approved. So any questions about that? Yeah? Okay.
So the ClienTrax integration there, just in the first picture that you see, where the consumer signs up, there is really the integration with ClienTrax. Outside of that, everything is being managed automatically by the integration from our database, and we're just doing all these things proactively because we know the features that you actually want that actually would help your practice, eliminate overhead, streamline your business, is managing this on your behalf. And as ClienTrax sends a new request for payment on your behalf based on that card they've registered on file, we actually pass them back a couple of additional fields that just lets their software know, since your last send for this client record, we have an update of the credit card on record. So we go ahead and approve it, and on our response back to them with the approved, we give them a couple of additional fields that just lets the ClienTrax software stay in sync, and they're also where these updates are occurring. The great thing is neither the practice nor ClienTrax had to do anything. It's all being done every day proactively for the merchants. So it's pretty powerful technology.
So these are some screenshots from the actual ClienTrax integration, and I know it's all really tiny and it's probably hard for you to see sitting back there because I'm up close and it's a little difficult. So what I'll do, I'll try and just point some things out and talk you through it. But what we have set up through the ClienTrax integration is tiered levels of service, which you can choose to do tiered. You could choose to offer only one level of wellness per animal type, one puppy plan, one dog plan. You could offer bronze, silver, gold within all of those categories as well. But what you do within the software when you decide to do this type of offering, you set up a bundle of service items. And so this is already a part of the program. You already have your plans designed and you know exactly what's included in each of these different offerings. And once this bundle's created, you know whether it is for the bronze, the silver, or the gold. So every patient that you subsequently enroll in these programs, you already know which bundle is associated with that type of enrollment. And as you can see through on the screen, you see here exactly what fees are associated with each charge. So not to get in front of this, but as you can see here, this is an example of a wellness visit. And the fee for a bronze is $20, silver is $10, and gold is no charge. So by being enrolled in this program, it's discounted. If you want to, you could make everything zero and just offset the monthly payment. So in other words, it's not necessarily discounted off of the bill, but you're going to pay more monthly to have more services included. So hopefully that makes sense. But the point is the system tracks the charges on your behalf, so there's nothing for the staff to manage in addition to it. The software automates everything for you. So if you go to the next screen, you'll be able to see an example of how that carries over. So you saw how for the bronze, a wellness visit is discounted to be charged only $20. So you can see here that the patient Tika is enrolled in the bronze wellness plan. So upon checkout, that charge is automatically flowed over here and it's automatically discounted to $20. So there's nothing that the front end staff has to do to manage this. It's automated through the software. They don't have to do any type of calculation or any type of detective work to figure out what services are included. It's all done through the system. So that's the beautiful thing about integration. And this is just an example of the checkout. So the bronze program payment, this is what we do every month as far as the recurring payment technology. So as I had mentioned, you would figure out what the total cost is of the annual services that you're bundling together. You divide that by 12 and that's how you arrive at the monthly payment. So in this example, for a bronze enrollment, it's $50 each month. And so this is the screenshot of what you do whenever we capture that card data. And as you can see here, this is the data we actually keep in our vault. And you'll notice that it's completely encrypted. So this is what I had referred to before as a token or a tokenization. So it's completely encrypted and secure, so the practice is not at risk of having anyone's financial information accessible by the staff. You're not liable for that. And then through this, we're able to automate and update and make sure that you guys get paid every single month. Any questions around the integration through ClienTrax? I'm surprised, you can't see the screens. Okay, if you don't have anything to add, Jeff, we'll move on, but.
The only thing I'd like to add is that this is all fully integrated. So it's not only going to save you a ton of time in managing this program, but we're doing this without taking 10% of what other people are taking from you to manage a non-integrated program. So in other words, if you subscribe to let's use an example, the Purina Wellness Program, you would have to somehow manually keep track of a non-integrated wellness program, and they're going to take 10% of your revenue off the top for their management fees of managing that for you. So this is extremely powerful in the fact that it's going to save an enormous amount of time to manage without having the amount of revenue that you're going to have to take off the top to cover someone else managing the plan for you.
Very good point. Okay. So let's talk about what's included in this comprehensive solution. I mentioned ClienTrax is the only one. We've talked through the payment component of it. We've shown you some screenshots about how it's managed, but that's not all that you get when you sign up for this program. We have a lot more available to you. So as I mentioned, you can go with a basic service offering for each animal group you choose to offer, or you can do a tiered plan. The system is set for either one of those. And as I had mentioned, it's gold, silver, or bronze, or just the plain basic plan. We also have already done a pre-designed template for the wellness plans for you. We've done those based on AHA's recommendations. So if you happen to be an AHA hospital, then great, your work's done. If you're not and you trust them, then great, your work is done. But the great thing is the system is fully customizable. So you're not locked into any rigid type of plans. Everything is customizable to exactly what your practice wants to offer. We know one size doesn't fit all, so we leave it completely at the doctor's discretion about what they want to include. Okay, and we'll see some examples of that on a future page.
So for instance, you might, on a gold plan, you might want to offer a annual dental cleaning, okay, with x-rays. And the nice thing about my presentation this afternoon about something like that is if you take dental x-rays, 35% of dogs and 48% of cats have pathology that requires dental treatment that don't show clinical signs of disease. So you and your staff can be the best vets in the state of Ohio and miss treatment opportunities on half your cats and 35% of your dog population you're doing current dentals on. If you're not taking dental x-rays, you're missing those opportunities. So let's say a gold wellness plan, you would include an annual dental cleaning and an annual series of dental x-rays, okay, as part of the plan. And you're going to uncover treatment opportunities in over half of your cats and 35% of your dogs that you wouldn't see without doing dental x-rays, for instance. Now, the treatments would not be part of the wellness plan, but the dental x-ray and dental cleaning would be, which is going to allow you to uncover those medical things going on in the oral cavity of the mouth that you may not see otherwise.
That's a great point. So that's just back to driving the practice revenue because you're uncovering all these additional opportunities.
You know, being a Yorkie owner for 13 years, if we would have had this offer given to us with a dental cleaning done every year, I was signed up immediately. We did not take very good care of our dog's mouth because the vet that we went to had a traditional dental where they charge per extraction, you know, per this, per that. And I look at this Yorkie's mouth, she's got 40 some teeth. You know, I don't know if it's going to be $150 when I pick her up or $650 or $950 the last time I did a dental on her. So I would have much rather paid, you know, wellness plan and $200 a year over, you know, broken out by the month, if you will, to have dentistry be part of that my pet's plan. So some do, some don't. I know when we were just out in Vegas on TV, Banfield had an ad for wellness plans at the Banfield hospitals, and their gold plan did include an annual dental cleaning and a set of oral x-rays. So during my presentation today, I'll talk to you about how slick it is to integrate digital x-ray into ClienTrax medical record, as Patty saw last week, and some of you already have. But this is something I think that could be really huge to the entire medical, veterinary dental aspect of a practice with these wellness plans.
And Jeff brought up a really good point about Banfield. This method is tried and tested. They know that it works, and they have purpose-built technology for all of the Banfield hospitals that allows them to manage this and promote it. So what we've done through this ClienTrax integration is made the exact same thing accessible to all animal hospitals that don't necessarily have a network of several hundred practices where it makes sense to purpose-build technology. So we've gone ahead and done that and made it accessible to all of you. So that's a really great point to bring up Banfield because they've been doing it for years and years and years. You know this works. And now you have access to it.
Lindsay, but I think there's a few of you in here that don't have ClienTrax yet. This wellness program is available if you don't have ClienTrax installed in your practice yet, but it would not be an integrated solution. But you could go forward with the PayPros wellness plan without being integrated to ClienTrax. It just means you would have to you wouldn't have the integration to your current practice management solution because there's not one out there that exists, correct?
That's correct. I was not going to mention that since we're here speaking on your behalf, so thanks for mentioning.
No, I'm serious.
But you could enroll separately.
There's some people here that have not converted to ClienTrax yet, I believe. And
Yeah.
I think it was important to point out that you can implement this program without being integrated, but then if and when you decide to go to ClienTrax, it would be automatically integratable, if that's probably not a word, but you're one step ahead of the game.
Yep. So offering wellness is clearly the way to go, but offering it through an integrated solution is hands down the best way to do so. So just a little bit more about what's included. In addition to the pre-designed wellness plans, which you can customize as much or as little as you wish, we also provide the hospital with branded wellness cards. So if they do a tiered offering, the cards are bronze, silver, or gold. They have the practice's name and logo on it. So it's just kind of a value add because every month the patient's being charged $30. They've got something in their wallet that they associate that value with. So it's just a good marketing opportunity for the practice and top of mind awareness. You know, and they know that they're doing it for their pet every time they open it and they see that card in there. We also have taken the initiative in pre-designed marketing collateral for you guys. So once the plans are designed, it's very easy to go ahead and print these out and promote them to your client base through these pre-designed marketing templates. And then we already went into good detail about the recurring payment technology, about our ability to update that managed payer data, And the last component that I won't go into too much, but we've already pre-drafted up a practice client legal agreement that basically details that they are authorizing you to bill them X dollars each month in exchange for the agreed upon services. And it's all written to the practice's benefit. So in the case of a deceased pet, or if the payment should stop, it kind of talks through all of these what if scenarios, just to point out they're all worded to the practice's benefit, that it's at your discretion and your decision. Yes? So here's just a quick example. I'm sure it's really, really difficult to read, but you can kind of get an overview. This is an example of our pre-designed puppy wellness plan. Again, it's all based upon AAHA's recommendations. But what you see here is a listing of the recommended vaccines. And then over here is the non-core recommended vaccines. This category happens to be preventative care, such as what's included with the wellness visit, about microchipping, anesthesia for spay or neuter, and deworming. And then there's other pages as well. It's online, it kind of walks you through it, but it's very simple to use. So as you can tell here, there's the gold, silver, and the bronze option. You simply click what you want to include in each offering, and over here you track the practice's cost that's associated with each service. And what we recommend you do is that you track what you charge the client, not what the true cost is to the practice, because the whole point of these worksheets is to figure out what the total value is of the services that you're bundling together for them. So if you walk over here with me, this is an example of the marketing collateral that we have for you. So again, we have collateral that's designed to every potential scenario that you might want to offer to your patients. This happens to be an example of the Puppy's Gold plan, but it's going to outline the total value of the services. It's going to outline what their cost is each month. And then it's going to be very black and white about the actual services that they're buying, because one of the things that we hear from practices, some of their hesitation, is that people find this to be some type of insurance program, which it's not. It's the absolute opposite of an insurance program. So this is preventative health care. So we want each client to have a copy of this when they leave the office so that there's no confusion about what their $30 a month is buying them. And so we've gone ahead and tried to make it as easy to get this implemented for the practice as possible. Once you have these worksheets completed, as we kind of talked through earlier, this program's on autopilot, so the front-end staff doesn't really have much to manage by way of once someone's enrolled in the program. So this is all pre-enrollment.
Is this on the web?
Yep.
Web form?
Yes, so currently it's available in both. What we envision it to ultimately be is the ability to click through and do everything online. But right now everything's clickable through the web, but you'd print everything out if you want to work on it that way also.
Is there a way that the clinics can put their own logos on and stuff like that?
Yep.
Or not?
Well, it's not logos right now, but so right here where it says provided by, there's actually two fields. I mean, they're blank because they're not filled in, but the hospital name would be very large right here, and then there's a secondary field if you want to use it where you can list all of the doctors' names.
Okay.
So some practices are operated differently. They might have to have different plans with different doctors, but this is all customizable.
So right now it's sort of co-branded Wellness Your Way and the hospital.
Well, no, because what ends up happening is this is practice facing.
Okay, I
the
gotcha.
customer never
Yeah,
sees this.
I gotcha.
This is the only thing the client ever sees, so
Oh.
our name is nowhere on this.
I
It will
gotcha.
only be branded to the
Oh,
hospital.
great. So it's kind of this customizable.
Yeah, not to logos.
Okay.
You can't upload a logo.
What we found when we looked at, trying to keep it simple, because the more complexity you give, the more pause you give everyone, like, well, I need to think about all this complexity before I make some decisions. And the more we looked at stuff, one of the decisions we made was not every practice has a logo. So on the right, the Puppy's Gold Wellness Plan, that's actually, as Lindsay said, the marketing collateral you would actually present to your clients inside the practice. So this is an electronic file that we actually send you. You just click inside the file, customize it based on the plans that you built from your worksheet, populate the information then on the bottom right, the phone number, the hours, the practice address, etc. Now you save this on the practice computer and you print them at your leisure. When you need more, you just print out some more on your own printer. There's nothing, we're not trying to sell you collateral or anything like that. We give it something to you. You can go ahead and modify it. You decide to change the plan. And then the Wellness Your Way practice worksheet on the left. Wellness Your Way obviously is important to the practice, but insignificant to the client because it's the practice that's providing the wellness program. So on the left is just a worksheet, a series of worksheets for all the companion animals that the practice is able to sit down with, have a starting point of the AHA recommendations, and then mentally go through the remainder of what they want to offer from their plan. And then once they complete those worksheets, move right into the marketing collateral, and they're very quickly able to implement this. This kind of gets them to sit down and work through the mental calisthenics about what actually they need to consider. It's already done for them, so it is a turnkey solution, and that you could just accept the turnkey solution that's already populated on these pages, which are AHA recommendations. Just take your costs for the practice and decide how you want to offer a single or a 3-tier plan. And at that point, you're really done. Move straight into marketing. You don't actually have to do anything beyond the AHA recommendations. So it's either custom or turnkey, but you're 95% there by the worksheets that are already pre-built for you.
Yes.
When does the puppy plan roll into the canine plan? And
Right.
is there an evergreen clause in terms and conditions?
I'm not familiar with what evergreen means.
It says renewing year after year.
Oh, okay. Yep, so good question. So the way that our system is built is you set the end date for the plan. So in ClienTrax's case, it's automatically going to notify you whenever that plan is, that it's expired, which it's not really expired. You're just going to be notified that they're up for enrollment. Through the standalone solution, we actually have the ability, you could put an end date 20 years in the future. You could have it go in perpetuity. The true value is setting that reminder for 1 year out, not so that it expires, but so that you get the reminder to reach out to the client to try and either upsell their program or, in your example, roll them into it from a puppy plan to a canine plan. The system won't automatically do that for you because there's, I would assume, to be a difference in monthly payments and a difference in the bundled services. So you would have to, once a year, reach out, see what their intentions are, and update them within the system. And then once again, it'll go on autopilot for the following year. But no, it won't automatically do that. I think that would not be the wisest choice to automatically do that. Good question. Yes. Okay. So I think this is the last slide or close to it. The really important thing to drive home.
You can go to the next one and come back to this one.
Oh, okay.
That works.
Okay, yeah, I forgot we had an example of this. So I had mentioned a couple of screens back that we provide the practice with branded wellness cards that they then provide to their clients. So they enroll Fluffy in a silver cat program, and they go ahead and get this card. It's branded to the hospital, and it's just a nice little marketing piece. And again, we don't charge the practice for this. It's included complimentary with the service.
So they don't have to have that card and swipe or
No,
anything?
so yes and no. So I wasn't going to mention the
Go
standalone
ahead.
solution. I really
Go
wasn't
ahead.
going to.
There's a couple people I think in the room that would be interested in
Okay.
that haven't converted yet.
Yep.
Or may want to do it prior to, just so there's one less thing to worry about,
Yeah,
like what Mary's
absolutely.
going through right now.
Yeah.
Where it's everything's new all at once.
Yes.
So there's a couple of people I think in the room that may be interested that may or may not ever go to ClienTrax, but are going to sometime.
Okay.
So go ahead.
So Patty, to your point, through the integrated ClienTrax solution, these cards are not required to manage the system. It's just simply a value add for the client, so they have something tangible to associate that monthly payment to. Now, to Jeff's point about the non-integrated solution, these cards are absolutely essential because it's through these cards, it's just like a typical gift card, right? The back's magnetic. You slide it through the credit card terminal just like you would for any credit or debit card. And it's through these wellness cards that we're actually able to track the redemption of services through the plan. So the simplest way is really through an integrated solution like ClienTrax, but Wellness Your Way is available if you're not a ClienTrax customer, and so then in this case the cards are required.
So in our case, I mean, it's so new and I think it's so novel that I think people would go to the family reunion and they go to their friend and say, look what I got at the vet today. I got a Starbucks card from the vet, basically. And I think people would show that around. It's so novel right now. People are just really into, I know my kids they can't wait for their Starbucks Gold card to come in the mail. I mean, it's just a fad. I mean, it's just the way, it's the future of the way generations are going to be doing stuff. It's crazy.
Yes, sir. With the owners who have multiple pets,
Mm-hmm.
will they need multiple plans?
Yes, they will. They absolutely will. So you might have a kitten on the gold. I'm sorry, you had more to that?
Well, I'm going to add a little comment again. You'll find humorous, but go on.
Okay, I'll give you the opportunity. But yeah, there's the requirement. If they have multiple pets, it's multiple plans. And there's the ability to be on different levels. Just because your cat's on a gold plan doesn't mean your puppy has to be. Maybe you only want to do the bronze puppy plan. So they would each get their own card. In an example of the non-integrated solution, they would each require their own card because those services are tracked independently.
In the example of an integrated solution in ClienTrax, the wellness plan is not tied to the client, it's tied to the patient.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be listed under the patient card, which is inside the client card. So you could have a cat on a no wellness plan and a dog on a puppy plan, and bronze or silver on the other dog.
Mm-hmm.
Now with these separate cards, one for Fluffy and one for Fido,
Uh-huh.
can you put their picture on the card?
You know,
there is
we've
for
gotten
human
that
Visa
request
cards?
so much. So here's the interesting thing. That's a great idea. The way the cards are pre-designed right now, there's no way to do that, but we do understand that there are some practices that have the ability to already print ID cards. So a great idea to that is if you have that ability already, then that's a cool alternative to offering just the branded practice cards, but that's not something that we can currently provide at this time because that would require us to provide everybody with one of those devices that allows you to print those.
Well,
Not everybody has
For
that.
office people, that they can match the picture with the
Yep.
animal coming in.
No, I mean,
Make sure
it's a wonderful
everything's on the
idea.
up and up.
It's just not currently available, but it's a great idea. And you could certainly find a way to do that, but we just can't provide that to everybody. Back to the previous one. Okay, so the biggest thing to keep in mind here is we are absolutely in no way profiting off of wellness. This is a service that we provide to all companion animal or mixed animal hospitals at absolutely no cost. There's no fees, there's no catch-22. People don't quite always understand that. It's hard for them to wrap their brain around that something really truly is complimentary. And that's true in both the standalone solution as well as in the ClienTrax solution. ClienTrax is not in any way profiting off of offering you all of this additional value through the management of these wellness programs. So what we at PayPros guarantee to do is meet or beat your current credit card processing rates. And the reason that we need to hold your merchant account is because for you to have access to our recurring payment technology, for us to be able to store your client's payment data and update that automatically for you, we have to be the holder of your merchant account. Now, I'm assuming every single one of you in the room currently accept credit and debit cards as a form of payment. So you're already paying someone every single month for the convenience and the service associated with that. You simply switch your merchant account to us. We absolutely guarantee to either meet or beat your current rates, so the practice realizes no cost difference or if anything a cost savings. And through us holding your merchant account, we're able to provide you with all of these services. So all of these services are included in your merchant account with us. You receive your money immediately. And then to Jeff's earlier point, I said he was stealing my thunder. The really cool thing is you can use these payment technologies for purposes other than wellness. So as he mentioned, you know, the ability to provide in-house financing. Not all clients are approved for Care Credit. That's a well-known fact. So if you trust them, this allows your front-end staff to not have to track down these monthly payments. You just agree upon it at the time of service. Say, fine, we're going to collect $250 the next 3 months, and your account will be settled. So it allows you to automate additional plans as well.
Another real key factor is not affiliated with wellness, but our affiliation with PayPros allows you to integrate the credit card payment system directly into ClienTrax as well. Not the management of the wellness program, which is also there, but the integrated payment processing, so you don't have to go to a separate black box and swipe the card and enter in another amount and enter it wrong. You don't have to reconcile that separate black box and tie up a separate phone line, because all you have to do is have a swiper out hooked right to the computer where you're checking out, and it's fully integrated checkout as well as fully integrated wellness. Okay, and then the other point that was one of the points I was going to try to make. What would it be, Dane, on this whole topic?
I'm digging the audience participation. It's making me feel like I'm not doing a good job on my own, but I'm loving the back and forth.
I wanted to make on how integration works, but it's I forgot now, unfortunately.
Okay. So I think that's it for us. Is there any final questions that we haven't already covered?
Okay. All right.
Duke it out.
So it's the end of the year.
Uh-huh.
You have that client come in and say, or it's beginning of the next year. I didn't use all my stuff. Can I have a refund? Or is there some kind of form that you have them sign ahead? Or
Yeah, so that's in the agreement that we talked about that's kind of pre-built for you. And it's not really something, that you expect to take to court or anything, but it's setting expectations. Typically when you get disgruntled customers, it's because their expectations are not in line with your expectations of who's doing what in this relationship. So it's basically putting those expectations down on paper. Our recommendation would be, but it certainly is your business and you do what you think is appropriate, but it is our recommendation that because of the financial uplift that you're looking to achieve by implementing wellness, which has true value, real value, and you are legitimately trying to bring these animals in so that they get the preventative care, catch early disease, those types of things, you are giving them every opportunity to do so. That we look at it as an annual commitment for care. Here is the outline of the care, here's the value of the care, and here's the fees that I'm going to charge on a monthly basis for this care. However, I need you to do it in an annual window for it to be effective. I'm not trying to roll services over periods of years. Now we're not actually doing for the animal what I created this whole solution to do, right? Medically speaking, right? If the animal does these treatments over a 3-year period, I didn't accomplish what I was trying to do from a compliance standpoint. So I think it's legitimate that you try to enforce this as an annual expectation. I need you to bring the animal in. That's the whole reason we're doing this, is for the well-being of the animals. Now, just like, at the end of the year, I look and I say, wow, I paid my gym $840 last year. I think I went 9 times. And I call the gym up and I say, you know what? I actually did some calculations and at $20 a visit, I'm better off paying you $180. So could I get the delta between the $840 and what I actually used? Their answer is going to be, we were open every day. We were here. The fact that you didn't come in is not because we weren't offering you the opportunity. So I think it needs to be looked at the same way, because you're truly trying to get compliance, and that's the position that you defend, which is, I realize you didn't, things come up and everything, but the goal here is animal wellness, and I gotta get you in an annual for that to happen.
So short answer, the contract is worded to the practice's benefits, but it's up to the doctor's discretion what they would choose to do. But it's all worded to the practice's benefit as far as commitment.
I know what I was going to say earlier, Renee. Excuse me just a second. This is kind of on the edge, and it's probably not a PayPros sponsored thing, but there's been some discussion around, because of the way we've automated this payment system in ClienTrax, of almost being able to offer, if you will, sort of your own care credit program. And I know you're not in the credit business per se, but there's been some clinics with the streamlining of this processing that we've done within the system. Say, for instance, you give care credit as an option, but we would like to have you guys keep as much of your revenue as possible. That's why we're trying to come up with these programs that, like this one, that doesn't cost you 10% of all the revenue. Use care credit as maybe a way as an option to get somebody to say, look, they're approved with care credit, and if they're approved with care credit, they're probably a pretty good credit risk for you, and you probably know your client a little bit better than care credit anyway. And so you might want to consider giving a Feeder Creek credit program with interest, if you will, and rack them a certain amount versus having to go to Care Credit, which is going to cost them a lot more, and you keep that revenue versus it going to somewhere else. It's just something to think about. It's kind of on the outside edge, and I'm not sure if we'll get into that sort of tech offering in the future, but
Well, I think that's actually a great idea. I can tell you without naming names, but Care Credit is run by GE Finance, and GE is, fairly risk adverse. They sell lots of products and then they hand all that revenue over to their finance company, and then they go out and loan the money they made off aircraft engines and refrigerators, and they go out and loan it to people and make another 8 to 25% off of already earnings. It's actually a pretty ingenious model that they're doing that as an extension of the same company, but they're fairly risk adverse. I can tell you in conversations that we have and we're approached at things that there are a number of companies right now running toward the people that Care Credit won't approve, that several very qualified people are running into creating companies that say they cut people off way too soon, that are still trustworthy, and our data says there's a business model underneath Care Credit. And Jeff's talking about when you get a Care Credit approval, which is still the higher end of that risk, but there are a number of companies rushing right now to get to the market with kind of that underneath Care Credit and to fill a void, because they say their data shows that, quite a bit under where Care Credit is cutting people off, there is still a very viable opportunity. So I think that's a good point. If Care Credit's approved them, they are certainly operating at a very low risk edge of the market. So
versus carrying all those receivables and all that kind of stuff. It's an option to think about with the integration that we have with automatic racking and credit card.
yeah, absolutely.
And that actually is a huge cost saver, because, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not hugely familiar with Care Credit, but I think the minimum they charge the practice is 5% up to $1,000, and then it jumps somewhere to 10% or so. So if the practice is able to keep that 10% of the revenue by allowing the patient to spread that out over a period of time, and you're not really putting your hospital at risk, that's a really great point. That's a lot of revenue that you're just easily giving up when you now have the payment technology to automate it, and you're not putting yourself at risk.
Well, we want to make suggestions, I think, to keep the money in your pocket as much as we can, because of just the squeeze that everybody's under in the small business world. So we want to help you keep as much of your money in your pocket as you can. I've never heard anybody say, "Man, I love Care Credit. It's kind of a necessary evil." Right? And so this will just give you some food for thought. No one probably knows your clients better than you, not that you want to become a credit risk company, if you will. But to Dana's point, if Care Credit's going to approve them, you might offer your own kind of, not wellness plan, but your own kind of Feeder Creek credit plan, and rack them an additional 5% or 10% and put it, for the risk, if you will, that you're going to associate yourself with, and just come up with your own Care Credit plan, basically.
Then you finally got the payment technology you needed to automate the collection of that right within your own systems, which is where even the people that consider that. So, when we interview people as part of our research, we say, "Do you offer in-house financing?" Everyone says, "Absolutely not." Okay, let me re-ask it. Do you promote in-house financing? No. Do you have people that are paying you monthly? Yes. Right? So
every single one of you do. That's why you're all smiling.
But they immediately, when you say, "Do you offer?" Absolutely not. Okay, what I meant to say is, do you market? No, we don't market that. Okay. Do you have relationships? I know their dad, this, that, and everyone is managing a couple of dozen of these. And then when you say, okay, so let's talk about the payment technology or lack thereof, and how you're managing this, it is a brutal process. And at Jeff's point, part of that limitation of why it's 2 dozen as opposed to 4 dozen, one component of that is not just risk, but it's also the mess of trying to actually get the account receivables through, of chasing checks and who's billing them, you know, it's a, you know, them becoming their own monthly payment company is a huge burden for them, and they try to limit that.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.